everybody. Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast on the LineStar YouTube channel. Alongside my co-host, Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon Sommerville, and we've got your top wide receivers that you want to target in your next best ball draft on Underdog. And speaking of our partner Underdog, make sure to download it and use the promo code LineStar so you'll get a nice bonus deposit match. Plus, you'll also get 1 free month of the LineStar app, which, by the way, we've got some pretty great best ball rankings out right now. And the best part about it is you can export it, use it for your next draft. So check that out as well, linestarapp.com. And before we get into our picks for wide receivers that we're going to target in our draft, by the way, we're also going through early, mid, late wide receivers. So not only do we have guys at the top of the draft that you could try to target, but also those deep sleepers, those sort of hibernators that could come out of nowhere and produce for your fantasy league. Tyler, what kind of qualities were you looking for as we were kind of sorting through the ADP list here to try to find some good value?
Look, there's either like two different things that can really give you some extra value, and that is more volume or their efficiency continuing to grow, you know, with a little added volume or a change of situation. And those were kind of the main things is, you know, more opportunities and then also some efficiency to go with it. I don't want a guy that's going to, you know, get, say, 7 yards per target and fall down right when he gets the ball.
That's for sure. Okay, so
the amount
none of those guys
you would need to have would just be insane.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go through our list here. Do us a favor, though. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. Let us know how your best ball drafts are going. It helps us with our good old YouTube algorithm. Hopefully it helps you out, too. Let's all help each other out in our best ball drafts. Good luck out there. I know it can be a little wild. One of the things I noticed in my last best ball draft was how much people are really going after those rookie picks, because I kept seeing a ton of veteran wide receivers that I'm like, how are they falling this far? I think that was kind of a theme that I'm seeing. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a theme. I mean, there's not a ton of real interesting rookie wide receivers, but I would say second, third year wide receivers, there's a ton of them to me that are super interesting.
All right, so let's get into our wide receivers to target here. Again, we're going to start off with early rounds, guys you can go after that are still going to provide some value. We're going to stay away from the obvious, you know, first round picks and try to go a little bit deeper than that to give you a little bit more value here. So let's start things off with 2 wide receivers from those early rounds that you could target in your next best ball draft if they fall to you. The first being Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba, currently ADP 29, wide receiver 17 off the board. And Tyler, this was a guy who was wide receiver 14 in 2024 in total fantasy points scored. And he actually scored the second most fantasy points for a wide receiver over an 8-game stretch starting in November. This is a guy that we know has great hands, route running skills, really great specifically in traffic. In a different situation this year, though, at the Seattle Seahawks. They've got a different look, new quarterback, new coach. What's your assessment?
And no DK Metcalf. So this JSN pick for me embodies both of the two things that I was kind of looking for. Extra volume and then also efficiency numbers. So efficiency, yards per route run in 2023, 1.33. That jumped up to 1.83 last year. So there was a big jump up there. I think he will be once again very efficient, but now there's a ton more volume coming his way. And the wide receivers from year 1 to year 2 that have that jump usually have another big jump come wide receiver 3. And he's a guy that could really break out this year.
All right. Next up, let's go to the Baltimore Ravens and Zay Flowers. ADP 49.4, wide receiver 29 off the board. He finished wide receiver 24 last season. When I was kind of looking over his numbers, he actually had a higher catch rate, yards per route run, and receiving grade last year than he did his rookie season, but he had less fantasy points. I think that might be the Derrick Henry effect. He's not going to get as many probably touchdown or or red zone targets, but this is still a player that has tremendous speed, quickness, great route running ability, and just a really big yak threat. Per PFF, he actually ranks second in avoided tackles per receptions over the last two seasons, and he's on a good offense. I like Zay Flowers here. What do you think?
I love Zay Flowers here. So his targets went up, his targets went down. That's reversed. Catches went down, targets went up last year. But his efficiency metrics, as you said, went way up. It's another guy. He was at 1.64 his rookie season, all the way up to 2.34 last season. That's 17th in the NFL. He's going at wide receiver 29, and his situation hasn't really changed. I mean, if anything, it's got better. We know that for sure Bateman is just a guy. Mark Andrews looks like he could be falling off a little bit. They didn't really bring in anybody else. Derrick Henry's another year older. Like, it is the Zay Flowers offense, and he only had 4 touchdowns last year. I think that's part of the reason why you're saying he had less fantasy points. He had 5 the year before. So, I mean, he could easily jump up from, he had 1,059 yards last year. Say he gets to 1,200 and then 7 touchdowns. And, you know, you're making money on where you're drafting him for sure. And at that point, and I think that's not a huge jump up. He's a clear cut wide receiver 1 for MVP quarterback who could have been MVP again last year. And now that quarterback isn't doing it with his legs only. I mean, he's really, really been developing as a passer and just keeps getting better in that part of his game.
Yeah, when Todd Monken's there, he'll drop some plays. And Zay Flowers, I think he has the ability to kind of create some separation, make some big plays for his quarterback there. They did bring in DeAndre Hopkins to the mix, but last season he didn't show us that much when he was with the Chiefs. So I don't think that's going to impact Zay Flowers in the least there. All right, next up, those are our, earlier round wide receivers to target. Now let's look at those middle round guys that we want to target. Remember, there is that big wide receiver drop off as you go in your best ball drafts. You'll know it when you get to it. But before we get to it, let's start off talking about San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Jauan Jennings. ADP 65.3, wide receiver 37. 2020, so this is a guy 7th round pick back in 2020. But last year with injuries, he ended up seeing a ton of playing time. So in week 3, he actually had 11 receptions for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. Massive game for him. Finished wide receiver 27th overall last year and just really provided a nice safety blanket there for Brock Purdy. The 49ers seemed to really rely on him in those situations when they do have so many injuries. And now you've got kind of a different situation there with the 49ers where, you've got new wide receivers or wide receivers now gone like Deebo Samuel. What do you make of where he's going in best ball right now?
I like the spot for him. I think he's going to be the week 1 wide receiver 1. Brandon Ayuk likely comes on a little slow. The other thing is we've seen some wide receivers deal with these major knee injuries where it takes them a while to really be able to cut. And that's a huge thing for a wide receiver, just to be able to get open. So I think Jennings, at least for the first half of the season, is technically going to be the wide receiver 1 for a very good offense. The other thing is it is a contract year. I mean, he had his first big year last season. He is still under contract this year. If he wants to get paid, he needs to show up, and he's been pretty good. He had a 28% target rate, and he was 11th last year with a 2.45 yard per route run. Metrics look good. I mean, he's not going to give you the explosive plays, but consistency and some, goal line upside is there for him.
Yeah, and especially when he has the rapport already with Brock Purdy, and you talked about this being a good offense and one that knows how to scheme week in and week out. So
and no Deebo.
And no Depot. Next up, let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders and their wide receiver, Jakobi Meyers, currently ADP 73, wide receiver 40 off the board. Last season finished wide receiver 29. He did have 3 games with over 100 receiving yards. And when you consider who was throwing to him, guys like Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, man, I feel like Meyers could be in for an upgrade this season with Geno Smith. He's always been a super reliable, versatile wide receiver, but this year could be good for him. Since 2023, he actually ranks among 147 qualifying wide receivers. He's 39th in receiving grade, 17th in total targets. And we did see him get more targets once Davante Adams was traded to the Jets last season. He definitely was the beneficiary of that. Still kind of the number 2 target in that offense behind Brock Bowers. But hey, that's still an upgraded offense, new coaching staff, new quarterback, bringing in a ton of guys on offense. Nice running back there too now. So what do you foresee with Jakobi Meyers and his prospects for best ball scoring?
Post Adams trade, he averaged 6.2 receptions per game, 75.4 yards, and 0.3 touchdowns per game. He was an elite wide receiver after that trade. To put that in context, last year, Amon-Ra, the Sun God, averaged 6.8 receptions and 74.3 yards per game. So very similar numbers. Amon-Ra just finds the end zone a lot more than Jakobi Meyers, but now we have an offense that is upgraded, quarterback upgrade, and I think there's room for Jakobi Meyers. I mean, Davante Adams last year was saying he's the best kept secret and, out of the wide receivers in the league. And now's his time to really show it.
And also, if you talk to Patriots fans, they are still really upset that Jakobi Meyers, they weren't able to keep him. So I feel like they know what those Patriots fans know what those Raiders fans now have in Jakobi Meyers, just the overall talent level. We just have to see kind of a better overall coaching staff, better quarterbacking, and I think we'll get there with him, and I think he will deliver. So I love the pick there. So those are our middle round guys that we're going for. Now, everyone's favorite, the late round sleepers. Who can we grab that might provide us some nice value for our best ball team? And the first guy we're going to talk about, Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Parker Washington. Currently 215 on the ADP, wide receiver 111 off the board. Oh, I love this. Last season he was wide receiver 80. Not the most explosive player, but he is dependable. He has a knack for making plays after the catch. And in week 13, he did put up 6 receptions for 103 receiving yards and touchdown against Houston. So we know he can have those games. What is your assessment for, the Jags wide receiver here?
So they did draft Travis Hunter. Now, We're not totally sure how much wide receiver he's going to play, how much cornerback. I think the expectation right now is that he is, primarily a wide receiver this season. And I don't think that really hurts Parker Washington. Parker Washington is a slot guy. Christian Kirk is gone. Evan Ingram gone. 2 guys that really take that middle part of the field are gone, and it's going to totally open Parker Washington. And that big game you were talking about was one of those games where Christian Kirk was gone and that the middle is open. I think that's going to be his path to success. He showed promise last year, and it's an upgraded offense with Liam Cohen now there. Yeah. And if you remember, Chris Godwin has gone nuclear in that slot role with Liam Cohen. So I think Parker Washington could be his new slot gadget, which with a guy that's being not drafted in a ton of drafts, I think there's a ton of upside for him when you're taking some Jacksonville players, have some correlation for it. I've probably taken too much of him now. Yeah. I'm waiting for some OTA news to spike him up a little bit so I can stop taking him. But hey, who knows if it comes or not.
Yeah, that's a great point too that you make about Liam Cohen being there now. And he's going to figure out ways to get those wide receivers involved in the passing game there for Jacksonville. So I like that spot there for Washington. An interesting sneaky pick there. certainly like that one. I also like our next wide receiver that we're going to talk about, and that is Los Angeles Rams Tutu Atwell. Currently, ADP 206, wide receiver 86 off the board. Gosh, I love these late round sleepers here. In week 3, this was a player who had 4 receptions for 93 receiving yards. We know he can have those boom weeks, and he is known for his exceptional speed, skilled route runner, can really create separation for himself, which, you know, is a nice thing when Matt Stafford is your quarterback as well. So he's definitely shown that he can put up the numbers, and he has some opportunity, right, Tyler?
He should have some opportunity. Demarcus Robinson is gone. That is the guy that took that wide receiver role, the 3 role for the last few seasons. He's gone. Obviously, Cooper Kupp's gone, but Devontae Adams is here. We know they're 1 and 2. We know it's Puka and we know it's Adams, but we have Stafford throwing him the ball. There's a team that loves going 3 wide. And I think Tutu Atwell is the one that's going to step into that spot. He has that explosive skill set like you talked about, and he's going to be on the field a lot. If that's the opportunity for him, I love it in a very late pick. The guy that could come up and sneak that role from him would be Jordan Whittingham, who is a dark horse for the role, but he did have a lot of buzz last season. But with my last pick, I want to go with the upside, a guy that can have the huge game with a Stafford offense that has a ton of weapons. This offense should be able to score again this year.
Yeah, and I think with Whittington, the one thing that sort of disappointed people last year, we thought he was going to be the guy when Puka Nacua was sidelined. I don't know if you took him at all in fantasy, but he just didn't ever really deliver for us in the role that we thought he might, you know, take over for Puka Nacua in those absences for Puka, and he just didn't. So I can see your point that, you know, maybe it'll go to him, but we have seen already the speed specifically from Tutu Atwell and also Sean McVay has talked about how he's going to have an increased role in this offense, or, you know, who knows how true that is, but, you know, I choose to believe the coach and what he's saying going into the season. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the beginning of the season last year, he stepped up and he had a few really big games when, you know, the Rams were hurt with guys. He is one of those guys that can step up. My only worry with him being out there a ton is the Rams really do like their receivers to block, similar as to, you know, the 49ers. So, I mean, he's 5'9", he's like 170, you know, he's not that big of a guy. So that's the one aspect of him that I'm worried about being on the field a lot, and where I think Jordan Whittingham can maybe win over some snaps just because he's, you know, bigger body, probably able to block a little bit better. But Tutu has the explosiveness.
All right, so those are our picks for top wide receivers that you should target in your next best ball draft. Let us know what you think of the guys we are targeting. And Tyler, how are your best ball drafts going these days?
They're going good. It's a grind, and you know, best ball summer is here.
Best ball summer is here indeed. Again, if you haven't already, check out our rankings on LineStar. LineStarApp.com is where you can find those. And if you don't have Underdog yet, go check it out. Hop into some Best Ball Mania drafts. We'll try to have a live draft here coming up soon because it is best ball summer, as Tyler said. So good luck in all of your best ball drafting. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. We'll see you next time here on the PreSnap Podcast. Thanks for watching.